And there have always been beauty standards, but like when we grew up, we'd be like, oh, those are impossible beauty standards. But now we're seeing, and young people are seeing images of bodies and faces that literally don't exist because they're just changed. And so when we look at ourselves, we think, how could I ever look that way when literally no one actually even looks that way?
Mhm. But it somehow it feels like maybe it's available, right? And then another thing that's come up is the GLP-1s, Ozempic, right? And all of a sudden, it's like heroin chic is back. And I was like, oh, and then it's just like, oh, I refuse to spend middle age dieting. And I'm not gonna go on this drug that makes you feel like you're in your first trimester of pregnancy, right? Like, that is also like $1,000 a month or something, and it's just yeah, it feels like it's cranked up.
It feels accessible because you would just have to buy it, right? You just have to pay
Mhm.
for it. And that's different than saying, "Oh, you just have to go to the gym or you just have to do these, like, 50 crunches every 10 minutes," or whatever. And that cost escalation in the beauty industry is absolutely out of control right now, and the pink tax on that, like I said, this is not just a female problem, but the amount of money that one can spend on what's now considered to be the bare minimum and basics is absolutely out of control.
This is your strange and beautiful life. Wow, I think everybody, not just Gretchen Andrew, is dancing to that. Aspirational. Hello, everybody, and welcome to This is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. My name is Erica J. Schmidt, and on my podcast, I talk to people who may or may not have had the chance to transform their lives into spectacular TED Talks. And today, my guest is the viral painter and hacker, Gretchen Andrew. 2 years after college, Gretchen quit her so-called dream job at Google. Maybe you've heard of Google. And she set out on a performative experiment to become an artist. Okay, and guess what, everybody? It was a wild success. Gretchen believes that an artist is someone who is celebrated for being themselves, and then a professional artist is someone who is paid for being themselves. And maybe you're listening and wondering, well, that sounds fabulous. I would like to be paid for being myself. And you are in luck because we are going to find out how Gretchen did this on this episode. We are also going to talk about Gretchen's new and exciting exhibition, the award-winning Facetune Portraits. Facetune Portraits is a series of oil paintings that criticize how AI and plastic surgery are homogenizing the faces and bodies we see in media. And maybe you've noticed the beauty ideals are ever more impossible, and you have to try really, really hard not to feel terrible about your face. So, Gretchen's provocative portraits have been featured at Berlin Art Week, Paris Photo, and it's just very, very exciting. There are 2 paintings in the collection that have been put forth for permanent acquisition at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York City. We love New York City, and we need this series, and I can't wait to talk about it. I am a little bit obsessed with Botox, even though I've never had any. I'm going to be 40, and yeah, I'm like, do I spend 2/3 of my rent to stop my forehead from scrunching up, right? And like, you know, the accordion forehead, what did they call it? Forehead ab rolls? Anyways, I'm like, really, I think about this a lot. Gretchen, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on This Is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. And I really want to say, as like a first thing, like everything we're going to talk about today is not to say that like if you do get Botox or if you do use any of these apps, it's not about shame or about anything being bad. It's about having your appearance reflect a love of self, and sometimes that means different choices for different
Yeah,
people.
I agree. And like, yeah. And, but owning, I mean, just respecting your own choices, doing it because that's what you not want and not like a moral high ground or conforming to like the expectation. I don't know. I'm like, just, I do a little bit
Exactly.
of facial yoga. That's not really true, actually. I don't. I would like to do some facial yoga. I do a facial massage. Oh, you have a facial a gouache
Yeah.
thing? Yeah, yeah, we could do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would like to do online fitness as a calling. I think that I would do facial yoga, butt exercises. I have all sorts of ideas, but my video game is not like up to par yet. I don't think. Okay. Well, are you ready for the first question?
I
Okay,
am.
so Gretchen Andrew, you got a running scholarship, which is interesting, and you studied information theory and information systems at Boston College. I hear this is a good school. And then you threw out your CVs, and it's like everybody's parents' dream. You landed the job at Google. Like, my family would have been so pleased if this had happened to me. And so you're on your way to being a conventional success. And then, like, what happened? You're like, I hate this. You're miserable. Like, how did you decide I'm going to be an artist? I heard that you illegally moved into your art studio with $5,000 and a rice cooker. You had to like shower at your gym. Like, how did this come to pass? Was there some sort of revelation, calling? Tell us everything.
So I think starting with where I got educated is important. Like I didn't go to college and be like, I'm gonna study what I'm passionate about. I thought I'm gonna study something that can get me a good job. I love information systems. I think technology is very interesting. But even at that point, I was thinking, how do I be practical? It's a huge opportunity to have college paid for. How do I get how do I make use of that and become an operational member of society? And I think one of the blessings is, well, so first of all, I got this job at Google, like, everywhere else told me no. Like, I was like it was like 2008, like,
Oh,
nobody was
yeah.
hired. I had no job offers except for the dream job, which I want to point out because I think often we don't go for the gold because we think that, like, the silver is safer, but if we're not meant for the silver, like, it's not gonna work out for us. So, I'm starting at Google, and this is supposed to be the best job you can have, and I'm really unhappy. It's a combination of my manager, what I know, what I don't know, a struggle to be taken seriously. But more than anything, I realized that I didn't want to have a work life balance. I wanted to have a life's work. And I was in a big system trying to do something meaningful to me. And if I had cared a lot less, I would have been way more okay there. But I didn't want to care less. And so I started thinking, okay, well, if this job's not for me, what is for me? And I didn't it was unlikely to be like just a different job. Like I was getting, free lunches and, great salary and health benefits and everything. But I so believed in technology as a tool of personal transformation. And I was seeing it primarily used to manipulate our attention and sell us stuff we don't need. I sort of protected myself because I know business being an artist. I had no skills. I didn't know anybody. I just had that definition of what an artist was in my head and said, okay, I think I can learn how to do this on the internet. So that's like YouTube classes and Stanford Online, MoMA Online, but even just like connecting with people on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. Like the art world is supposedly notoriously closed off. And I just found that, like any world, it's something that if you want to be part of it, you can figure it out, and technology can be used to help in that journey.
So you worked at Google and you saw the like sort of, I don't know, would you call it corruption of the algorithm? Like the certainly manipulation of people's the attention economy, but you still felt like, oh, I can make this. I can put this to good use. Like I can infuse joy and love into the internet. Like how did you not get jaded? Like how, because most people would be just like, oh, this is a mess. They have so much power. Like, how did you feel like, okay, I don't know, what were you, 24 or something? Like, I'm going to use this as a force for good.
Yeah, I think I still had some of that idealism, and there was no idealism left at Google at the time, and I'm sure there's even less now. You know, we're talking about 15
Yeah.
years or of difference here, for really what has happened in Silicon Valley with the consolidation of power, and I think I positioned it as a belief in technology and in the internet, but really it was a belief in myself that I was protecting through technology. Like, if I had said to myself or people in my life, like, "I believe I can become a famous artist," they would be like, "Well, there's no evidence of that." But if I said, "I believe that technology can transform us into anything we want," that was the ethos we were living in. And so I think there's a truth to it. I also think it helped protect me before I had any business deciding that these were going to be my goals.
Right. So it's like a pitch almost. It's like to make your family who like, or just your people around you freak out less, maybe?
Yeah, like, you don't have to believe in me, you just have to believe in the internet.
Oh, okay. I like practically though, I mean, you had $5,000 of savings, which is not nothing in your 20s, but it's not a lot, especially were you in Silicon Valley at the time?
I was living in San
Yeah,
Francisco.
so that's like 1
Yeah.
month 1 month's rent or something. Like, so how did you practically survive, like, in terms of, like, food and bills and, yeah, I know you showered at the gym. Are you still a big runner? Do you still like, you kept
Yeah.
running all that time?
Running is, like, the biggest, most consistent thing in my
Okay.
life. Is I've run at least 1 mile every day since 2007,
Wow.
30 years. So, the practical side of it, yeah, it was really, like, luckily in Silicon Valley at the time, a lot of people had worked for companies that had free lunches. I'd go to friends'
Oh,
companies for free lunches, and I also would put on art shows, and my friends or I would publicize it. I worked really hard to get some early press that was very much around this narrative of self-transformation via the internet. I was very cynically reviewed in the SF Chronicle for doing this as well, but, like, it was still no press is bad
okay.
press, sort of thing of like, "Oh, well, like, tech nerd, like, thinks she could become an artist, how cool." Um, but people so Kim Gordon has this quote that I really like where she says that people will pay you to see you believe in yourself, and I think there was an energy in Silicon Valley at the time where a lot of people, some of whom were new to it and some of whom had already made a lot of money, were really questioning what it is that they wanted to do with their lives or, wanting more creativity infused into the city. So I did like cityscape paintings that I sold, and I drove for an early Uber competitor for a day or a week. I had like a 1-star rating and I made like $7.
Oh,
So
good.
it was um, not that didn't work out for me particularly
Right,
well. Um,
but not
yeah,
so many odd jobs, like, you really were sort of doing, like, these art installations, like, to make the money? You weren't, I don't know, working at restaurants, like, cleaning houses, things like this?
I was teaching children art.
Okay.
I like Yep, children's like, so basically like a glorified
Yeah.
nanny or under glorified nanny because I think real nannies are actually qualified, and I was just like a babysitter who did
Oh,
watercolors
watercolors
with
with
some kids.
children, that sounds ambitious.
Yeah, yeah, and then, like, I'm trying to remember specifically, like, it was a different healthcare era as well. I was young enough I could still be on my parents'
Okay.
insurance, which saved me a lot. And then later in my journey, I moved to London and was able to, through a visa there, like, have National Health Service, and so, like, even that's how I have my health insurance now is because I'm a resident of a country that gives it
Wow.
to
Yeah, because
everybody.
that's a whole other level. The Canadian healthcare system has a lot of problems, as idealized as it is, lots of problems, but, like, we don't have to like, what is it, like, $1,000 a month for healthcare? What is this for insurance?
Yeah, that's like, I would say that's on the middle if you're self-employed,
Okay.
that's about
Or
what.
else it's included
Yeah.
in your, like, employment package. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, grants and, like, Residencies became a big part of it as well, where you can apply and you get given a place to live and a small budget to work, and so that became a huge part of what I've done over the last decade as well, is, live in various places where it's rent-free, but the spaces are created for the making of work all over the world, Santa Monica, Vienna, Dubai.
Right, and you're kinda just willing to go anywhere, right? You're not like
Yeah, yeah,
right,
exactly.
'cause
But, just like, when you're an artist and you're figuring out what it is that you're doing, it's time and space is everything, and money is one of the largest components of that, and even with what I do now, having reached the level of success that I do, part of my work has spun off into different projects and different companies and different consulting opportunities, and keeping all of that active so I can continue to take the pressure off of my work. Like, as soon as I actually had work that I was making, like this is my life's work, it became almost easier to pick up the odd jobs or the consulting and all of that because it was so clearly different. But, like, a lot of people go to art school, and I wanted to give myself a period of time to, like, really be in it in the same way when you're at art school, to not be doing, like, as much as I possibly could, to, like, not be doing anything else and to be fully immersed in that craft, but also, like, that identity of trying to figure it out.
yeah, because we were gonna talk about that. People describe you as self-taught, and you criticize that term because it's like you just because you didn't get an MFA and go to art school, you were like, you still were taught by like people on the internet. You had a mentor, I think somewhat famous at some point. What's his name again?
Billy
Yeah, and he
Childish.
said you were really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, this is maybe, I don't know if it's just, like, an art world thing, 'cause I wanna make this a little bit more broad, but the idea that to go to school and to get a particular degree is sort of what we need to
Uh-huh.
succeed, I think is fading more and more in every industry. And I don't feel self-taught at all because I went to Boston College, I studied information systems, I had the entire internet at my disposal, and then I've had really good mentors, and those mentors have come about because I've knocked down their doors
Yeah.
to be able to spend time with them, and maybe 25 said no, but the right ones, both Billy Childish and Penny Slinger, were willing to spend time with me and help me evolve not just artistically, but also figure out how to navigate this whole crazy world of how is it that you can, like, make paintings that people buy that allow you to eat food that you wanna eat.
Yeah, like, but how do you go? I mean, I think a lot of people would like to get mentors, whatever medium they're in, but you're like, how do you go about getting a mentor? Like, do you pay these people? Or are you just kind of like, "Hi, I'm really nice and I'll say really nice things about you if it works." Like, how did you go about that? How did you find a mentor?
It's a really unofficial process, and the what I found is one of the biggest things is when you do get the opportunity to meet somebody, whether it's, you literally see them on the street or you knock down their door to just be in the studio and watch them work for a day, is to realize that you're there to learn what it is that they teach. And especially as an artist, I wasn't there to develop my own style or to have my own sense of expression or to question any of the pedagogy. It was to learn what he's very good at. And on my own time, I could do whatever else. But for one day a week, I was there to live entirely in that world and in that lens of making. And when I see other people or when other artists approach me, especially as an artist, it's like, "I'm an individual, I'm creative, let me show you what I can do," and it's, like, not the place for it. Like, the mentorship, I think early on is a place of observation and absorption, and maybe you get a business mentor to help you figure out how to creatively express yourself or maybe a coach, but in in learning, like, a craft, like, you're there to learn what that person teaches, and to have that clear in your head, I think can help a
So
lot.
you would go to Billy Child's like art studio and you would just watch him paint? Like, would he show you how to do certain techniques or anything? Or it's more of a, like you said, observation?
It was a lot of observation, and then I would have my own easel. I was very lucky with Billy as well. His son was learning to paint at the same time, so I think he was also, I think it's a timing thing with both mentees and mentors. He was in a place where he was ready to teach. His son was in there anyway, also learning. And so we almost developed this little like rogue art school. And a lot of times it was watching, and then I would sort of, try and copy it or try and make a copy of the painting, or he would, be like mixing paint and be like, "Oh no, I need the titanium white." And I'd be like, "Well, why the titanium white and not the zinc
Mhm.
white?" So it's like contextually asking the questions and learning, and then going, deeper into like really like trying to make his work. And in trying to make another artist's work, there's 2 types of failure. There's failure because I don't have the skill and the craft, and then that's easy to isolate and say, "I need to learn how to draw better. I need to learn how to mix my paint better." And then there's failure that's you're getting so close to making a copy, but there's something in it that's me, that's different than my mentor, and that becomes the seed with which to sort of grow out and figure out who I was outside of that studio context.
Mm. And where were you starting from? Like, did you draw as a child? Did you have aspirations to be a visual artist when you were younger? Like, I guess you chose your degree as a practical, like, I have a full scholarship. I want to do something practical. Very, very understandable. Like, yeah. So what were your skills before? And like, how long did it take before you're like, okay, this is kind of what I want to make? Billy Child's like, yeah, the kid, that's okay. Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've ever gotten the thumbs up from him.
Honesty.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not there for his
Yeah.
approval, right? There to sort of, and when we connect now to have him still critique. But I did not there was no evidence that I would ever other than like conceptual art, the ideas, like art that is idea driven. I was always very creative, but I could not draw growing up. My sister could draw. I'd like messed around with paint, but it was not like an established thing. And when I was leaving Google, I was thinking like, okay, the internet can transform me into something. I'm too young to just not like tabula rasa, like what do I want to be? And I had made a short list. I was like, maybe I'll learn the banjo, maybe I'll become a famous
Banjo.
artist. Like maybe I'll get like really into programming again, become like a really amazing engineer. And while it sort of seemed like that choice could be random then, I I know that like the little I was exposed to art growing up, that there was this reverence for it and there was this culture and also, to be honest, a lifestyle around it where it's like the art world is full of like well-dressed people who have lots of money drinking champagne in beautiful places. And I wanted to be part of that too. Like there are plenty of artists who make a lot of money and make a lot of work that isn't part of this art world system with the Whitney and Art Basel and MoMA and like the different circuit of the art fair. But for me, I wanted to invent myself into someone who belonged there. And that feeling of belonging for me was as much about knowing how to dress as it was making the work that belonged to be there. And thinking of really how I think we should all think of our lives as a great masterpiece of art that we are in charge of designing. And that's everything from what I do when I wake up to like the fact that I get to make these paintings. And to the fact that like I get to fly to Munich, Paris, and Berlin next week because that's what's going on in the art world. And that's also partially when I started out the lifestyle that I wanted.
Right, like the glamour and the fanciness and the like, "Who are you? Do you know me? I know you. I saw you, like, in London last week." Yeah, okay, fancy. I don't like staying up late, that's not for me. But I have a reasonable bedtime, I guess. But, like, yeah, that's another part of, inserting yourself in the art world. There's the work, but you've said that it takes as much creativity to make it work as it takes to make the work. And I think a lot of creative people, and I know a lot of creative people listen to this podcast, they're like allergic to self promotion. It's like this huge block. They're just like, no, they are like just so concerned about putting themselves out there and failing. And then there's like, I'm not allergic to self promotion. I just find that, I don't know, I run out of time and then I don't see the results. And I'm just kind of like, what is this algorithm? What are we supposed to do? Nobody knows anymore. And yeah, like, how have you used the internet to like insert yourself in the into the art world and like become somebody, right? Because there's lots of people with all kinds of talent and they don't get there. I mean, maybe they didn't try enough, but some people just it doesn't feel like they get that click the moment where it sort of or the gradual build to notoriety.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the algorithm, and this is all part of it, but, like, I'm very proud of my 6,000 followers on Instagram, but it's not like I'm an internet
Okay.
sensation, right? Like, I don't have a huge social following. A lot of how I've built my network is in actually, like, postal emailing, like, as soon as you get a small opportunity, I write, maybe a dozen thank you cards a
Oh,
week. Those people become part of my, like basically, they get, like, a Christmas card or, like, a newspaper studio visit via post. And, yes, I email, yes, I Instagram, yes, I make videos about my work, but I don't think we're as reliant upon the algorithm as we think, especially in a field like art where a handful of people can make a career or really make a year. It's not like I need a billion people to listen to my songs, but, I do wanna address what you're talking about, that fear of self-promotion, because I think that if you're afraid of putting something out on Instagram, you're also going to be afraid of walking up to the person that doesn't know you, that you know, to try and, make that connection or build that relationship. And I think just like it's like with anything, like it gets easier and you gotta like I used to go to art fairs and be like, okay, I'm gonna talk to 10 people and then I can leave. And like would literally like set myself these like sort of metrics. And, like, some of those people are still on my email list, and some of those people I still stay in touch with, and the now it's much more natural, but like, just because it's not natural doesn't mean that it isn't worth doing, and failure is absolutely going to be a part of it. So if you just assume that of the 10 people you talk to, 8 of them, like, aren't going to care, it's not like you walk up to them and you say, like, "Hey, let me tell you about my art." You say, like, "Hey, I love your shoes. Like, what brought you here today? Like, what are you looking at? Like, where do you live?" And because these are all just people, and, like, behind each algorithm, behind each Instagram account is an actual person. There's an algorithmic mess in between, but if you can connect to a person, then, then you can write them a thank you card, and then they could be on your email list forever.
so
It's
you do you get
like
you get their mailing addresses and you send them thank you cards? How do you get
yeah,
people's
yep,
mailing addresses? You're like, "Hi, I'm a good pen
I say
pal." I could do that. I used to be a good pen pal.
yeah, or I would say, like, "Erica, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Really enjoyed our conversation." All of it completely
Yeah.
true. I'd love to
Oh, that's
do
so
I like to send
nice.
old
The
school.
postal workers are on strike in Canada, but they'll come back, yeah.
We think, yeah, and I just mean that, like, it's not about any particular tactic, it's about saying that, like, if you're trying to connect with a person and I know it's so cheesy, but, like, the whole, like, what would you do if knew you couldn't fail? If we think about it, like, you're going to succeed. You're going to get your goal. What is it that you would change? And the number one thing that I think we would change on that journey is we would just have more fun doing it,
Right.
because we know all the effort pays off. That's when it hurts, is when we don't think the effort's going to pay off. And so I think it's that belief that, like, yeah, 80% of the people you're gonna come up to, like, you're not gonna become their pen pal or talk to them. We're gonna get better at talking to people. Someone you meet is going to become someone who knows someone, and just building really the audience for your work, because I do think that part of the job as artists or podcast hosts or writers or musicians is to find our audience.
Yeah.
And it's not to make everyone like it, but it's to figure out who is our audience, and that does take a lot of putting yourself out there, but it's so rewarding when you have the show, or get the download report and you see that, like, people are caring. It's worth the effort of not everyone's gonna care, and that's completely okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have 6,000 followers on Instagram also. So everybody follow Erica J. Schmidt, but also no pressure. But I didn't realize there was so much in-person networking. I guess that makes sense because it's like, yeah, especially in the art worlds. Oh, I like your fashion. That's random, but the fashion with the art worlds does seem fun. You get to wear like a an art exhibit, great dresses, but I did get the sense that you did insert yourself into the internet in terms of search engine optimization. Can you tell us what you did for the 2020 presidential election with the search, like you hacked the next American president, something like this with vision boards? Please tell us how that went down.
Yeah, so that's a really great point because as I've been talking about all of this sort of tactics, when Taylor Swift says like, I'm only strategic and Machiavellian because I care, like I am not manipulative because I don't care. I manipulate this system because I love it so much and I want to be part of it and I believe I have something to say. So I don't think that any form of intention is malicious in this. It's just like thinking about it this much, like, makes it seem like this evil empire system, but, the the way that this really came about is I was thinking about all of this. I was doing a lot of visualization and journaling and manifestation tracks. At the same time, I had been making copies of my mentor's paintings, putting them on my website. I now wish I hadn't put them on my website because now the internet, like, won't get rid of them and they're not very good. But I would write underneath them on my website after Billy Childish. And this is the common way of saying this is not a copy. Was done in the style of trying to learn from whether it's Van Gogh or Gauguin. Like you say after this
Okay.
artist, citing the initial source. And what I realized is that my my copies of these paintings started to show up as top search results for his
Ah.
paintings. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. What's happening is that Google can't tell
No.
the difference between
Google.
something like, I can tell the difference, he can tell the difference, but I started to, like, tease this out in my head, and like I said, I worked at Google and I worked in information theory, and what was happening is that Google can't tell Google only knows about relevance. So if I say to you that, or if you say to me, I want my podcast to be the most listened to podcast on iTunes. I know that you're talking about a goal, a dream, a hope, but Google would only know that you're relevant to the most listened to podcasts on iTunes. And so by building relevance between two concepts, I realized that I can actually make the internet a global subconscious manifestation machine. And so I started taking major art world events, which for those who don't know are like the Turner Prize, the Whitney Biennial, the Frieze Art Fair in Los Angeles, and making it so that when people searched about those events, my artwork, my vision boards, I made these huge, crazy, like on canvas vision boards about wanting to be on the cover of Artforum, about wanting to be in the Whitney Biennial. These vision boards came up ahead of any of the real art world events,
That's funny.
but in a way we as people could see that I was manipulating the system because it wasn't a real cover of Artforum. It was like a drawing on canvas with flowers and glitter and
Collage.
exactly what you think of with a vision board. So I wanted to show. With this, was my first foray into the art world. Is when I hacked into the search results for the art world's major events for a year, and this became the launch of my real art world career, um, which, as I said, I'd already been thinking about, like, hey, what does it feel like to belong? What does it feel like to be there? And so the way that I got to use the internet in that performative process just became so. I know we've, only been talking for half an hour, but like this was the convergence of me in a way that like I don't think anyone else could have done this because it was like my Google, like combined with like working with Billy, combined with all of these different aspects of self that combined into this like art piece that was so me. And then I did it for the presidential election results just to show that like we should really not trust the internet
And
that
so you
much.
put the vision boards for the search term next presidential election. Oh, do you
Next
have to
American
buy
president, yeah.
next American president? That's right. And it was a key one, but you didn't do it this time. Maybe that's why Donald Trump won because Gretchen didn't do her vision board. That's okay. Like it wasn't your job.
Not okay, but yeah, it's yeah, it was like sort of have like completed that project and there's a lot to be said about, Google and the internet now, but a lot more of it relates to AI,
Right.
and so I feel like, um, it was it was done at its right moment, and hopefully the people who followed that project left with a little bit more skepticism. I think there is more skepticism in the internet now than there
Yeah,
used to be.
right. Right. Lots of skepticism. Okay. But I don't really know how to manipulate my search results. I don't know how to do that. But yeah, I guess it's like it was a culmination of all your skills and talents and it sort of like yeah, did manifest in that. Yeah. I love that. Vision boards. I have one vision board. How many vision boards do you make them all the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, for a while, I was, making them professionally, and they're in museum collections,
Okay.
and did all of that, but in my I would say my private life, I mean, it's all sort of mixed up, but the in my private life, I still do, like, my morning affirmation journal, and for my vision boards, I tend to do more, like, take images, and I have them in a Google album folder, and I flip through them in the morning
Okay.
when I'm doing my
Oh,
actual
yeah,
so it's like
because we were gonna do morning routines later, but that is your morning routine is, like, you look through your affirmation? Like, you look through
Yeah, I'm one of those silly people that, often, like, I get up at, like, 5:45, 4:45, but I try and be done with work quite early, but I do my affirmation journal where I write my day, my story, however I want it to be
Ah,
going, and then I record that in an audio form while standing in front of a mirror, and then I take that audio file and, at least a couple times a day, like on my run or before I go to sleep, I, like, listened to that same track
and it's, like,
again.
specific for that day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm, like, looking at mine on the floor here right now. So, like, some things are sort of some themes and some goals are, come up a lot. And then sometimes it's just like, "Oh my god, I'm like, I'm, like, so good at skiing." It's like I'm not yet, but, like, it's everything from, like, like, how happy I am to how the work feels to what I'm getting paid to do it. And so the focus isn't the same every day. It sort of strikes me in the morning as I wake up what feels the most authentic to the moment that I'm both in and working to
And do
create.
you meditate at the beginning of the day too, or it's more journal?
No, I just record myself and listen to myself.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of meditation,
How did you
um,
come up with this?
or I study.
And has it, like, consistently worked, and has there ever been, like, times where you have, like, I don't know, just, like, terrible setbacks and you're like, come on, affirmation, let's affirm ourselves through this, like, horribly toxic relationship, whatever, financial catastrophe."
Yeah, yes, there have been many, many setbacks and losses, and this particular iteration of what I do, I've been doing for a couple years. There's been different variations on it, but something I've been feeling more lately is that, okay, when I'm asking for something and I have a lot of clarity about it and I can feel it, that if something else happens, like maybe it's a financial setback or like there's a lot changing with my robots right now, and like I'm probably gonna set up my own robotics facility here in Utah, and oh my god, where am I gonna get the money for that? And that change isn't one that I was hoping for, but I know I'm asking for these other really big things in my life, and I feel like when stuff like that happens, it's because it needs to happen to set me up for the things that I'm asking for. So I've at least gotten to the point intellectually lately where things that look like setbacks, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this a minute. We'll see where this goes.
Right. How did you get into this? Like, how did you get into manifestation and that sort of mindset, like that, I guess, life philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot in general, but I also read a lot of self help. And it was sort of a combination of everything from 7 Habits of Highly
Oh,
Effective
yeah.
People merged with like more I'm trying to think of other like because the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about starting with the end in mind, and even
First things
Napoleon.
first. I read this as
Yes.
a teenager.
Yeah, so I just sort of built like a system around a couple things that like I'm an auditory learner and I also run every day. So just to have that, like literally changing the voice inside of my head, I mean, yeah, like it's if where there's anything that's got made me go from having no skills to being a well-known artist, like I don't know, like this stuff
It's pretty
works. And
effective. Interesting. Okay, well, we're going to talk a
yeah,
little more about your process towards the end, but can we talk about your robotics? Because the major selling point for me is like this Facetune portraits because we were talking about AI, plastic surgery, dictating what because through the algorithm making these like sharp cuts and filters what we're seeing all the time. And so that is what people are considering as beautiful. And it's like just becoming more and more expensive, for one thing. And just like, it feels more and more unattainable, right? Like you just feel like, okay, we'll just work out and like, have some foundation, pluck your eyebrows. And it's just now it's like, oh no, I need a full like, I'm just scared to go to the like, even for minor interventions, I don't want them to show me all the things they wanna do to my face. For me, it doesn't feel like an empowering situation, but it is just, anybody with a face, like, especially women, you have to contend with, like, how much how much maintenance is gonna happen here? How much money am I gonna pour into my face? And I guess it's just, like, the standards from all these images has really changed, like, the scrutiny, and yeah, so you have these portraits that's 100, Miss World, Miss Universe contestants, right? So there are these paintings. Why don't you describe the project? It's a bit technical, so just, like, if like, for people who can't you guys can look it up online, but just to give us a picture of what you're doing here, we'd love to hear it.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Erica. So the Facetune portraits takes the filters and Facetune that are very common on social media, but are also built into Zoom via a feature called Touch Up My
I have
Appearance.
that.
A lot of cell phone cameras have them built in. And what these are AI-driven algorithms that change our faces and bodies to look prettier. Normally, this process is digital and invisible, and it just moves pixels and noses and boobs around. What I do with Facetune portraits is I take that same process, but have a robot apply the modifications into wet paint. And so I use the Miss Universe contestants because they're so gorgeous. They're from all over the world. And these algorithms are not like, oh, hi, Miss Jamaica, you're fine. It's like, no, to change you. And so the process makes the invisible scars of these filters visible. That as it moves the nose to become straight, makes a gash and a scar. And as it makes the arm skinnier, it literally cuts off the arm and expands the breasts. And I do want to bring up that this is not just like a teenage girl on TikTok problem. Here we are, close to 40, talking about this, but also men are increasingly getting plastic surgeries based on these algorithmic changes. There's an app called Manly
Oh.
that if you want a definition of toxic masculinity, just look at the marketing for this app. And men are getting these jaws, women are getting crazy lips. And both the jaw and the lip is a relic of we exist in 3 dimensions, but we're so used to looking at people in a flat,
Flat.
one-dimensional screen that we are now prioritizing our bodies for the internet.
Oh.
So, the lip thing looks, better from the front than it does from the side,
Everybody.
and that's what we've done. We're saying the side doesn't matter, no one sees that.
Right, it's, like, just
Like
pure image motivated, like, photo
exactly.
motivated.
Yeah, and so what this series does is that it does all of that through these portraits. Like you said, the Whitney just acquired a couple, and I've had the opportunity to show them all around the world and really be discussing the fact that, Miss Jamaica and Miss Philippines should probably not have the same boobs and the same nose and, the same literally everything because it's not just about changing our bodies. It's about compressing them into a single international idea of what beauty is. And there have always been beauty standards, but, like, when we grew up, we'd be like, "Oh, those are impossible beauty standards." But now we're seeing and young people are seeing images of bodies and faces that literally don't exist because they're just changed. And so when we look at ourselves, we think, "How could I ever look that way?" When literally no one actually even looks that way.
Mhm. But it somehow it feels like maybe it's available, right? And then I another thing that's come up is the GLP-1s, Ozempic, right? And all of a sudden, it's like heroin chic is back, and I was like, "Oh," and then it was just like, "Oh, I refuse to spend middle age dieting, and I'm not gonna go on this drug that makes you feel like you're, in your first trimester of pregnancy, right? Like, that is also like $1,000 a month or something, and it's just yeah, it feels like it's cranked up, and yeah, so you have robots? They're like
Oh, yes. I do really wanna quickly, though, address, like, because I think that one of the points that you keep bringing up is so important in this, which is it feels accessible because you would just have to buy it, right? You just have to pay
mhm,
for it. And that's different than saying, "Oh, you just have to go to the gym or you just have to do these, like, 50 crunches every 10 minutes or whatever." And that cost escalation in the beauty industry is absolutely out of control right now, and the pink tax on that, like I said, this is not just a female problem, but the amount of money that one can spend on what's now considered to be the bare minimum and basics is absolutely out of
yeah,
control.
and like we said, no judgment. And I just, I know people in my life, people in the city, people you see every day are struggling to make ends meet. And it's not to say, especially for women, it's like not to say all your money needs to be altruistic. That's not fair, right? Like you could see it, we don't hold men to that standard, but like it just seems like, if I saved like let's say at least $1,500 a year. Like that is a significant amount of money in 10 years if you invest it. Like there's just so many, you could go traveling, you could do something else with this or just not stress about this $1,500, right? Like it's wild.
Also talk the opportunity cost of our time and money, and, like, um, Sarah Blakely is always sort of famous, the woman who invented Spanx and has now done sneaks, which I love. She's a self-made female billionaire, and she's always saying like, "Oh, like I didn't, meet my partner till I was like, I think like in her late 30s, maybe early 40s." And she has this thing that's like, like single taken building my empire. And she's like, like find love when you can have it, enjoy yourself, but also if we're gonna be there, changing our noses and spending money on plastic surgery, like I don't know, like what are we not building in that
Yeah.
time? Like and the I think the series is more about cause of Connie wanting us to question that.
Yeah.
So that it actually works is instead of, the pixels moving around invisibly like they would on Instagram, the robot gets given a paintbrush and looks at the difference between my face and what Facetune wants to do to my face and makes the same modifications, but because it's in wet paint instead of in pixels, it's dragging this brush and these other tools of painting and applying that filter, and to be honest, like, it looks violent
Yeah,
when it's being done
it's
because it's
very provocative.
clearly
It's very
is.
slashy. It's like, oh, somebody kind of like, I mean, it's interesting to, but someone kind of decided to wreck the painting, right? It's like they vandalized it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looks grotesque and has its own like, it's not there's a beauty to the painterliness
Mhm.
of them, but they are if you know some of these art references, like Woman One from de Kooning or, Jenny Saville, the way that Frank Arbach paints, it's messy, and it is messy to try and coexist with our digital selves, even when we're trying to be authentic.
Yeah, yeah, like performed authenticity is so is so trendy. And yeah, okay. What do the robots look like? Like you say you have robots that are moving to Utah. What do they like?
Yes, my so there's 2 different robots that I use. One is like a very intense printer. If you think about when an image gets printed on a cake, it just gets printed on that top layer of frosting. So I make an underpainting, basically a frosting, but of paint. And then I have a robot that's able to take a photograph that Matter Labs developed in New York, and it prints basically gives me a wet painting, like a very physically manipulable, frosting image of a
Mhm.
person. That then gets given to the second robot, which is a drawing machine. And that robot, it's like a plotter. It finds the right part of the eye and then starts making it
Yeah.
bigger and finds the nose and starts, for me, making it a lot straighter. And um, of course, the boobs must always get
Yeah.
bigger. So the robot is this drawing machine that is looking at the differences between the lived and the
And you
ideal.
just tell the robot to do that? It's like coding or something? Or how do you get the robots to do this?
So I literally use an app called Facetune
Oh,
or BodyTune or Manly when I'm doing men, and the robot gets given the original image and the new image, and then in the code, so the robot itself is actually quite dumb, but there's a piece of simple software that looks at the difference between the ideal and the actual, and anything that's changed gets sent into a set of brush strokes and instructions that the robot then
cool.
messes with the body
Oh,
with.
yeah. Well, everybody, I hope you've subscribed to this like smash hit YouTube channel. This is Your Strange and Beautiful Life. We'll try to put a little clip of what's happening. Yeah, it's very intricate. Like it's just, yeah, it's amazing what you can do. And the paintings are, they are very stunning. They're very elaborate paintings. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, thanks for that. And then, like, in terms of, like, personally, yeah, we've been talking a lot about Botox. I posted about Botox recently, and my friend was like, "I didn't read it. I already heard what you said about Botox." I was like, "Fine, Sherwin." Um, but how, like, they're always telling kindergartners, we don't comment on people's bodies. It's the least interesting thing about them. So I try not to. But you are, like, young and beautiful, and I'm the Facetunes they've they've had this external impact, right? And they have this external message. Do you find that for you, they've been transformative? Like, I think you're a bit younger than me, but how are you sort of processing? I found around age 35, that's when it was like skincare. Everybody's talking about skincare and lip injections. And I was just like, how are you living that transition in your life?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
37 and a half
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
wanna get, like, a kinder about it. So it it definitely has me thinking a lot, like, whether or not I've now put myself in position of I my work is now against this in a way where I couldn't do it if I want, but I just think that there's I don't wanna say a spectrum of this, but, like, I had braces growing
Yeah.
up, and that was a fabulous decision that my parents made because, like, you, like, probably can't be in all of the rooms in the world that I get to be in now with the teeth that I would have grown up
Oh, it's
with,
something
and,
else, eh? Yeah.
like, it is, like, obviously, people have all sorts of teeth, I just know that I think it made a
Mhm.
difference in my life, it's because we do live in a superficial world, and I worked with a couple influencers in Berlin whose portraits I did, and they were saying, like, when I modify my images, when I post images of my body, I get better engagement, and so therefore I can talk about my travel plans and my politics, and most influencers are doing something other than posting pretty
Yeah.
photos. They have something they're trying to say or promote or sell, and I, as an artist, like, if we get, like, photos of my legs, like, if we, like, do this, then I get following and engagement, and then I can tell you about, like, lip injections, like, it's such a game with an algorithm that we're not going to win long term. But more on the physical side, like, in dealing with aging, I always say that skincare is my
Okay.
hobby. Um, I I have fun doing it. I think it's a great way, we're discussing a bit already about morning routines. I think it's a great way to affirm to myself every morning that I'm taking care of
Mhm.
me. If it made me feel bad, that would not be a great way to start the day. but it makes me feel like I'm taking care of myself, like I'm valuing myself. And like I said at the beginning, that my appearance does reflect my love of self. And then, like, I can't say that I'll never get Botox. My sister's younger than me. She gets a Botox. Don't tell anyone that I said that on a
Look out,
podcast.
because this is a very famous podcast, so everyone's gonna know now.
I'll send her this clip. Believe me, I'll have her listen to. Um, I think that what I'm seeing with this is because everyone's doing the same procedures and they're getting the same adjustments. I think I'm gonna be like the person in the nursing home with, like, the only unique face left, and by then, that scarcity will give it value. So I'm sort of hoping that there's a bit of, like, pushing through this phase, because while I know they tell you, like, you should start Botox early
Too
and
late.
all of that, I just, like, financially and operationally can't imagine I get, like, 2 haircuts a year, like, where am I gonna do
Yeah,
this? So,
that's
um,
sick.
as far as not pervasive, tell me about you. Tell me, like, what are
Oh,
your thoughts
well,
here?
I have 2 thoughts. So, I had yeah, because my friends I have, like, 2 of my besties are bombshells, right? So they are not high maintenance. One is has dabbled in injections and Botox, and now it's, like,
Mhm.
not so much in the budget, and the other one is like, no, but definitely a lot of skincare, expensive products. I have bargain skincare, but I had this sort of, like, reckoning or like I was just obsessed with Botox probably around 36, 37 because it felt like everybody was getting it. So I asked my like 13th or 14th therapist, I'm losing track of how many therapists, but I was like, Karen, did you get Botox? I had written on an index card, ask Karen if she's had Botox, how many times? That's how many times you're allowed to have them. So my therapist, she's in her early 50s, divinely beautiful. No, like, but just like she has wrinkles. Like she looks, I don't know. She probably looks like she's in her 40s, but she doesn't. Not a very natural face. And she was like, "Well, I've had him one time because she just had a bad day. She didn't like this wrinkle between her eyebrows, and she's like, and it
Got that
hurt. I
one.
got a bruise, and it didn't work. And now she does eye-based therapy, not EMDR, but it's called OEI, and she really is like, "Don't mess with the neurons in there." Like, she's just like, "Don't paralyze your face," and she also, like, she thinks it's poison, but she's like, "No." Then I had a new therapist, and I was just going through a few times a year, I'm like, do I need to freeze my forehead? Will that make a difference? So
Freeze
yeah,
your
like,
forehead.
this is the path to happiness. And I went to my therapist over Zoom, right? And I was like, because, like, my boyfriend, bless his heart, was like, "Sweetie, I'm not talking to you about this. I will not comment on whether women's bodies I will not." He was like, "Hard no." And so I asked this therapist, and she was like, "Botox is great. It, like, freezes your face into a happy expression, and then when you feel bad, you kinda feel better." And I was like, "Wait, are you serious?" And she was serious, and I was like, "But I hate that that's the standard now because of the expense." And she's like, "Well, it's only $10 a unit. You just go, and it'll only be probably, like, you'll need, like, 10 units, $200, and then just stop buying lattes." And I was like, I don't buy lattes. Like, I don't buy lattes. You have no idea what my finances are like. You have no, like, just my values. Like, I have essays on the internet about this. It's called Mammoth Complex, Part 3. I should try to, like, insert myself into the art world with the Mammoth Complex essay. But, like, and anyways, we tried to talk about it. I got another therapist. I was like,
Yeah, oh my gosh, like, I mean, but it's interesting to have that like, the world have given you the experience of, like, someone giving you that permission, but in a way that you were like, "Oh, and whoa, I do not want
yeah,
this."
like, it just
You're so
it
clear.
feels like I mean, I sort of, like, wrangled whether to get Botox out of my other therapist. I was like I begged her to tell me, and she was like, "Okay." Right? And then she was kind of and now, I mean, now I think I posted on Instagram, and she was like, "Don't get it." She's very, I don't know. I've had, like my therapists have interesting boundaries, I guess. I bring out the best in them. And the other one, I just felt like I wrote to her, and I was like, "I just feel like I would have expected more neutrality on something so personal that I and you didn't like, you just didn't ask me how I felt about this. You imposed your Like, I don't know, maybe it was just too much to ask, but I didn't continue therapy with her. I was like
I mean, I think the other therapists, like, so I don't know this exact stuff, but EMDR therapy has been a huge part of my
Mhm,
life and my journey. And, I think that the truth is we see some of the upside, but we're not entirely sure about what the downside
mhm,
is. And it's it's funny because I actually thought you were gonna say, because I feel like when I started doing EMDR, my, I released so much tension in my
mhm.
face that I feel like I got significantly prettier
Interesting.
from doing that form of
Yeah,
therapy, because I think I was just all a
scrunched
little,
up.
it's not in a way that I would have known that that's what it was, but, when I'm having a bad day, I feel like I look less pretty, and I think it's because of where I'm holding tension and how I'm holding tension in my face. So, yeah, I could see all of this is very interesting, but, with Botox, don't you, once you start, you sort of have to keep going?
Well, some people say that's a myth. I asked ChatGPT recently. But yeah, I heard that then it's just like accordion face. But I mean, it's a muscle in your body, and you're not gonna have trained your muscle. Um, I
Mm.
I don't know. I do some neck circles when I'm stretching. I had a meditation teacher. He said that when you meditate, you'll be more beautiful, which is not a reason to meditate. But it's I find that there's something, and I mean, I also heard that being 40 is the hottest you'll ever be because you're more yourself. Like when you're younger, you're sweet and vibrant or whatever. But I don't know. It's the more you're yourself, the more beautiful you are. So I think that's the idea of that. But I mean, if you're insecure about how you look, you have all this baggage about that, that won't make you seem more authentic. I mean, whatever. It's not the most interesting part of our lives, but it is a part of it, right? But yeah, I can see that the relaxation, I mean, I mean, even my parents, well, hi, parents, they don't listen, but my parents had a difficult marriage. And I found that my father, whenever I looked at photos when he was younger, I was like, you look so uncomfortable. You just look, and now he's in his 70s, but after the marriage, I found that he kind of came into himself and he looked better, right? Whatever age he was. So it's kind of coming into yourself, whatever that means. Maybe it means freezing your forehead, but yeah, it's a muscle. You know what I mean? You wouldn't freeze your
Yeah.
thighs. You wouldn't like I don't know, it's so wild to me, but people swear by it. My neighbor is his whole face is atrophied, and he's in his I don't know how old he is. Anyways, he looks great. He does look great. He's like, "I love it." I'm like, "Sure, yeah, cool." He loves it.
Yeah, also, I mean, yeah, there's, there's the cost, there's the needle, there's, so many things other than, is this right for
Mhm.
me? With this conversation, I do find it surprising just how, prevalent it is, and also, I guess there's one thing that I do think is good about it is just, with both injectables and with plastic surgery, there seems to be significantly less shame around it than there
Mhm.
used to be, where I think people before were, doing it, but not talking about it, and now there's almost this dual thing where, people who get lip injections are often not hiding that they do it. They're like, "Look," it's a and I think there's an interesting cultural shift around that is, of our moment and new.
Yeah. We're not pretending.
People
We're not
who,
"Oh, these people are
if
just
I was
perfect."
no.
Yeah, and we all have our
Yeah.
things, right? I put a lot of time into my hair, to be honest, and I started that later because but I don't color it. That's another right? Coloring your hair, men and hair loss. Teeth is a big thing. I have, quite damaged teeth because of my eating disorder, and some people's I'm recovered, but, some people damage their teeth to such an extent that they had to get a new set, and sometimes I'm like, "Oh." I wish I'd gotten a new set, now I have this, like, sort of, like, mid-range teeth, right? But I would put money into my teeth, like, hands like, I would not think twice about, like, if something just irreparable happened, I would, get the crowns, get whatever it took, right? So it's like,
Right.
what is, varicose veins, yeah, well, I love the topic, but I think we'll just wrap up soon. We talked about your morning routine, but yeah, I mean, you're too busy for Botox. How do you fit everything in? Like, what is your creative routine? Because you have these big projects, and then all the logistics of it too, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, so one of, the portraitures of our time is Chuck Close, and he always says that inspiration is for amateurs. And even before I was able to make art, I was pretty militant about the routine, the amount of time I spent doing it. And so that often is like blocking out specific times. Like, if I'm a little bit crazy right now, it's like because I do all of my video calls and meetings on Tuesday.
okay.
So like things like that like anybody in any industry could do is like making that time be sacred, and also spending the time to really engage with things that inspire you. And I I'm a painter, I go to museums, but like live concerts and like books and like, podcasts, long form journalism, like anytime that someone's really putting themselves out there and just embody that and be like, okay, like she can do it. Like I can do this. I can take that first step. Like I'm sure when you were starting this podcast, were you terrified?
Oh, it took me so long, and I thought about it for a very long time, and yeah, and I cried a lot while I was learning how to do it, and sometimes I still run into technical glitches, and I'm just, like, crying. I just like, yeah, it's a big it's a big process, yeah.
Here you are and you're doing it, and now I'm sure like there was probably no it was just
Yeah,
routine at this
yeah, more
point.
and more, yeah, yeah,
You're so able to be yourself on it and connect with other people. It's important that you
yeah.
did it. And so tell them anything, just go do it. Like it's not gonna be smooth necessarily, but it'll be so rewarding when it
Yeah,
is.
and so, like but what would you say the typical like, you have, like, the typical day or maybe the typical week? Like, or if you're working on a generation generative part of the project, what does it look like?
Yeah, so I tend to like go into production, like I'll prepare all of the files and the content and the
Yeah.
code for the robots ahead of time. So it's like me sitting at my computer. It's very not sexy. But then I'll go into the robotics facility I work with right now is in New York. Like I said, I'm probably setting my own up in Utah. But when I'm in there, it's like sometimes we'll make like 10 paintings a week and I'll like have studio assistants in there and we'll all be like that sort of hyper intense energy where we're loving what we're doing and we're all sleep deprived and it's like it is a specific time in the production process that I try not to have other work or consulting or really social interactions because it's so exhausting. But what's nice about that is it's not sort of dripping around into every part of my life. It's like we're going into production. Like it's being like, if I've not mentioned this already, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. Like it's like being on the Eras tour. It's like I'm like not eating carbs that week because my energy has to be amazing.
Mhm.
But then I don't need to do that all of the time. And so much of the time is really in like this phase right now in particular before I head to my exhibitions in Europe is about connecting with people, logistics of the groundwork, and then talking with people like you about getting this conversation that my art hopefully creates and provokes into other contexts where it's not just the fine art world and we can make it more culturally engaged by seeing what your listeners think about this and make the work better through
Mhm.
that.
So there's, just in-depth creation time and then sort of there's the prep, in-depth creation. Would you say how many months a year would you say you're in that kinda deep mode, or it kinda depends on the year or
So I've got these stopwatches
Okay.
in
Oh, that's like swim team.
beside
I love
me.
those.
Yes. Well, because I'm sure there's an app you can have on your phone for this, but every time I go on my phone, I'm accidentally on Instagram,
How
so I
does
try
that
and, like, take
happen?
things off. I feel like anything you can take like, I have an alarm clock, I have a camera, like, anything I can take off of my phone, I found has made my life better. Um, these are the different aspects of my job. Like, right now, the AA one is going. This is the related to my art, but about sharing, talking, writing about it. Stopwatch. So I try and look at the end of each week, compile those each month, and just make sure that I'm not just spending all of my time talking about art and not making it, all of my time making art and not
Right.
talking about it. Because I think success really comes in probably in anything, but in art when what you do, what you say you do, and what people think you do are all the same thing.
Okay. That's good.
And whatever it is you do, like your podcast or, if you do anything, like ask your parents, your partner, your grandmother, your friends what it is you do. And like, I guarantee you'll be not surprised to learn that we don't, especially for friends work in banking, like, what do they actually do?
They
Um,
might not be working in banking. Their bosses think they're working in banking. They're on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly, but, I mean, there's different it's like, on a daily basis, what
Yeah.
is this really anyway, like, thinking about, like I said earlier, I believe that finding your audience is part of what it means to be an artist, and so just acknowledging that it is, for me, at least a third of how I spend my time, and that is, like, to me, that's worth it and necessary, but a lot of artists don't want to do that because it does involve, like, honestly, just a completely different skill
Yeah.
set and a different fears.
Right. Yeah. And some people say it's like it's just the opposite, right? Like to really be creative depends on your medium, but like you said, you just really have to like double down and then you're like, "Hi." Yeah, on your phone and on
Yeah,
Instagram. Yeah, okay. And like do you have sort of like a base practice of like sketching or like brainstorming every day or it's more like between projects? Like do you have or it's more like from one mode to the other? Like
it's more like I'm working in this particular series
Mhm.
right now, so when I'm in production, I do try and take 10% of my time to be experimenting with a different method or a different idea
Mhm.
within that. But I spent almost 2.5 years completely off the art world scene working to develop
Yeah.
this. So I think so a week basis is maybe not the
Right.
best
It's
way to
more
think
like
about it. For 2.5 years, I was like wrestling with a robot, trying to conceptualize this, trying to write about it, trying to invent the technology that I needed to make it. And now I'm in a more public
Mhm.
phase of that work. And that season will come up again at
Yeah.
some
It's
point as
almost like
well.
a 5-year chunk, right? Which is that's kind of
Yeah,
nice
5 years ago.
because I don't know about you, but I'm always comparing my creative output to past years. I had a really good writing year in 2022, but that writing hasn't found an audience, right? But I'm like, "Oh, I wish I was as, like, immersed in creative as I was in 2022," but it's like to sort of have different years, right? Like, pitching different years for different purposes, right? Like
Well, great, because it sounds like you spent more time cultivating a following and an audience and figuring out how to take those concepts and to bring them into conversation. And it's hard to really do
yeah, I think
both.
it's hard to do both.
Go back to that
Yeah. I
season,
mean, like,
right?
they know there's lots of great novels that are written an hour a day, but, like, really, most of them involved some sort of crunch time where they didn't think about anything else for at least a few weeks, probably a few months. Yeah. Well, this has been great. The very last question before your TED Talk is, do you have a cleaning routine? I think I spend 2/3 of my life cleaning, which if you had a stopwatch
Yeah, my house is spotless,
Oh.
and also, um, I I probably spend well, I have a 0 inbox. I don't know if you're
Oh,
considering that,
okay.
like, in the
Good
world of
for
creative,
you.
but at least once a week, I'll have absolutely nothing in my email. So, like, when these people open their emails and they're like, 7,000 emails, I'm like, "What in the" but it's because to me, it's like the information gets processed, it gets moved to a to-do list, like, all of that to me is like the digital cleaning is, um,
Oh, that's
like,
good.
probably a large part of my life, yeah.
I have, like, to pay for storage. I pay for Gmail storage. I'm just attached to it. I wanna, like I'm a minimalist, but it's like I wanna read the emails to my therapist from, like, 2019. Okay. That's impressive, but do you have, how do you keep your house clean? You just, do you have a day or you just every day at the end of the day, bathroom? Yeah.
I, um my ideal work day is like 5 AM to 2 PM, and then I go for a run, and then so, like, really, I'm, like, done by, like, 4, sometimes
Mhm,
earlier. In the winter, I'll ski every day from 9 to 10, but that's because I've worked from 5 to 9, and I'll, like but anyway, like, I tend to be offline pretty early in my
mhm.
afternoon, especially because I live in Utah, and everybody that I work with or interact with is, like, from, like, Dubai to Switzerland to New York, so it could be very nice living, like, sort of off the time
Mhm.
zone time zone.
So clean at the end of the
But
day.
yeah. Yeah, like, every day,
Every
yeah.
day. For how long? Like half an hour, 1 hour?
I mean, honestly, sometimes it's just, like, 20
Okay, yeah,
minutes
just kinda
because, like, I don't cook a lot,
no.
so it's like I have to, like, clean my blender,
Yeah,
like,
no
it's
Botox, no cooking. It's not for me either. Fuck, no.
right, no, there's plenty of like, I can it's 11 AM, and I've listened to the Taylor Swift album 3 times already today, so believe me, I'm plenty busy
Mhm.
wasting time. It's just with things that bring me
Yeah,
joy.
yeah, choose the best kind of wasting time. Well, this is wonderful. I'm glad your house is spotless. I the last question I ask everybody is if you could transform and distill your life into a spectacular TED Talk. I'm sure this is on its way. But what would the title and topic be?
The TED Talk I'd like to give is AI's impact on how we see ourselves. And I could talk personal journey on
Mhm.
that, but it's,
Yeah, and it would be, yeah, very timely. I hope they call you for that soon. And yeah, so this has been so wonderful. Just 1 second, I'll be right back. A guest pointed out that for whatever reason, I sing the theme song 2 times, and she thinks that's very funny. Nisha Coleman, are you listening? But I like routines. But before that, where can people find you online? Go and see you in Europe. What would you like? It's self promotion hour.
okay, self-promotion second. Yeah, do become one of my 6,000
Yeah.
Instagram followers at Gretchen Andrew, and, I'll be sure to be posting content from this interview as well and crossing that with Erica's audience. So I think maybe because people from my world will be hearing this, and is the best thing to follow you on
Oh, yeah,
Spotify and iTunes
Instagram,
with
but, I'm on Instagram, erica.j.schmidt, also Facebook, but don't add me as a friend if we're not friends, and then I have a website, ericajschmidt.com, and the podcast is /podcast, but yeah, I am on definitely Apple, Spotify, YouTube is new, so join some of the elite VIP subscribers that have joined so far. And there's other places, but those 2 are, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube are the main ones I promote. So and yeah, I'll post everything. And yeah, post this very wonderful, excellent interview. And yeah, well, thank you so much and have the best time in Europe. And, I hope the robots move. Are you going to drive them or fly with them?
I'm probably gonna have them made
Oh,
out
okay.
here.
New
Like,
robots
it's not like yet yeah,
are
new
gonna be
robots,
born in
yeah, so
Utah. Okay,
yes, yeah.
that's great.
We have to see if they like the
Yeah,
altitude, but
come on, robots. Okay, well, yeah, I hope that we can, sort of, put some photos of the robots in the recording because, yeah, you just have an idea of what robots are, and it's nice to see them in action. And yeah, well, I'm really glad that your robots are, and you are putting your hard work to great causes like the Facetune portraits. And yeah, thanks so much for talking to me about Botox for so long.
and thank you,
Yeah.
Erica, for hosting this space to share these stories and to let it get a little weird. I really enjoyed getting to share the work and, hear how your questions took it very my hope for this is to have people engage with this culturally, and I feel like you did an amazing job bridging this into so many, really contemporary conversations, so
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
thank you so much. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Slide into our DMs or, just put some comments. We want to hear about your Botox or your morning routines. And then, yeah, thank you as always to my darling big sister, Tess Levitt from the Big Heart Journey and Splash and Boots. You can find her episode 9. of This Is Your Strange and Beautiful Life, Sherwin Tegia, my creative advisor, most cherished friend, and my dearly departed aunt, Arlene Gunn, whose surprise and generous gift helped me fund my microphones. And that's it. Thank you to you, dear listeners. We're all going to sing the theme song one last time. You ready? This is your strange and beautiful life. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gretchen Andrew. Thank you to all of my listeners. Everybody, have the best day. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.